As tensions simmer between Germany and the United States, the situation intensifies with Volkswagen workers embarking on rolling strikes. These labor actions signify far more than mere workplace disputes. They unravel the threads of economic harmony that have long characterized the transatlantic alliance. Picture this: just 5 years ago, it would have seemed unimaginable that Germany, a stalwart among European economies, and Canada, an economic heavyweight, would unite against tariffs imposed by the U.S. government. How did we arrive at this moment? The roots of the conflict extend back to aggressive taxation measures introduced by former President Donald Trump, who claimed these tariffs on steel and aluminum were necessary to protect American industries, branding all global agreements as threats. His move sent shockwaves through allied nations, particularly Europe and Canada, which have relied heavily on their trade ties with the U.S. Germany found itself at a crossroads. The automobile sector, the beating heart of its economy, faces imminent danger. Major brands like BMW, Mercedes, and Volkswagen blend power and prestige, exporting hundreds of thousands of cars yearly to the lucrative U.S. market. However, with a potential 25% tariff looming over these exports, manufacturers are bracing for drastic price hikes. This could cause a domino effect, threatening jobs and livelihoods across the country. In response, Berlin is fired up, considering a bold, swift retaliation. Germany, traditionally compliant with European Union policies, now looks at individual negotiations with Canada. Who shares its struggles against mounting tariffs? This has ignited questions within the EU. Is Germany prioritizing its own interests over collective duty? Yet, German officials insist they are not undermining the Union. Instead, they aim to fortify it by acting swiftly to protect jobs. As the European Commission becomes aware of these developments, it attempts to moderate the situation. Their responses attempt to encourage caution, claiming Germany's speed might create unrest within the EU. However, the palpable sense of urgency in Berlin echoes louder, especially considering the severe impacts on both the automotive and steel sectors. While uncertainties loom in this escalating trade war, the potential for a unified front between Germany and Canada sends chills up Washington's spine. If these two nations manage to coordinate a response to the tariffs, the U.S. might find itself battling pressures from within its own deeply divided political landscape. With all eyes on this tense standoff, will cooler heads prevail, or are we on the brink of a full-blown trade war? The stakes couldn't be higher. If tariffs persist, what impact might they have on ordinary workers and consumers? All indications suggest we must prepare for a tumultuous journey ahead, steeped in economic conflict and the robust pursuit of power across borders. The situation has escalated sharply between Germany, Canada, and the United States, with tensions stemming from unfair tariffs affecting vital industries. Both nations rely heavily on steel and aluminum, critical for automotive, defense, and construction sectors. As the world's largest steel producer, Germany finds itself in a precarious position. This intricate web of international trade is tightening, as if a storm is brewing, inviting scrutiny and unexpected alliances. When the tariffs were enacted, a wave of shock washed over Germany and Canada. The U.S. government's insistence on additional tariffs, including a staggering 25% on cars imported from Europe, sent alarm bells ringing. Imagine the clamor of production lines grinding to a halt, with BMW, Mercedes, and Volkswagen exporting vast numbers of vehicles, suddenly faced with ballooning prices and dwindling sales. What would happen to the thousands of workers reliant on this industry? You could almost hear the anxiety in the air, thick with uncertainty. In response, Berlin realized that the traditional path via the European Union could be too slow, a tortoise in a race against a rapidly approaching hare. The German Ministry of Economy set the wheels in motion, stating, "We can't solely wait for Brussels." They had to act fast for their vulnerable industries. The very mention of retaliation ignited debates in the EU. Was Germany once again prioritizing its own interests over that of its partners? Berlin insisted, "We're not undermining the EU, we're defending it." Simultaneously, Canada, feeling the sting of the tariffs as well, voiced frustration. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau mentioned, "This is unfair, and we will respond." The idea of retaliatory measures began to materialize, resonating like a rallying cry. The stakes were high. A united front could potentially pressure the U.S. administration to reconsider. Both nations were caught in a bind. Could they truly stand strong against the looming threat of a trade war? The shadows of uncertainty loomed larger, urging them to contemplate alternative routes, potentially sidelining long-standing diplomatic negotiations. Would they choose to join forces and forge a path together, or would the complex web of international relations prevent them from acting decisively? As talks of synchronized retaliation emerged, the intensity skyrocketed. Could their unity bring about real change, or would their efforts fizzle into another failed diplomatic venture? The clock was ticking, and decisions made, or not made, could alter the fate of countless workers on both sides of the Atlantic. What if a trade war erupted not between distant rivals, but among the very friends who built post-war Europe and North America together? Imagine factories humming, steel sparking, the scent of hot metal hanging in the air, when suddenly a sudden tariff clouds the sky like an unexpected storm. Germany's auto giants, Mercedes, BMW, Volkswagen, feel the tremor, while Canada's steel mills, long loyal to the United States, hear the clang of new duties. The United States, under a bold protectionist banner, threatens a 25% levy on German cars and a similar strike on North American aluminum. Could this spark a cascade that reshapes continents? Earlier we sensed the rumble of tariffs, now the echo becomes a roar. Canada, one of the hardest-hit partners, watches its massive trade flow to Washington shrink. Ottawa's corridors fill with the bitter taste of unfairness, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau declaring retaliation unavoidable. A plan of surgical tariffs, aimed at influential U.S. lobbyists, is drafted in secret. While President Trump believes separate negotiations will weaken Europe, Canadians whisper, "We will not stand alone." Could a joint German-Canadian front force Washington to retreat? The prospect of coordinated taxes looms, promising to hit the United States from both sides simultaneously. The question hangs, will Washington buckle under a double-edged pressure? The previous paragraph warned of a possible alliance, now the stakes sharpen. Berlin, aware that its automotive heart beats in sync with steel, argues that EU decision-making drags like a slow-moving train. Our industry is fragile, we must act fast, the German Economy Ministry insists, proposing direct talks with Canada. The European Commission, though uneasy, notes that unity remains intact, yet critics accuse Germany of prioritizing national interest. Imagine the clang of steel, the metallic smell of heated iron, as both nations draft synchronized retaliation measures, simultaneous tariff hikes that could cripple U.S. exporters. If Washington faces the European bloc and Canada together, will the pressure become unbearable? The scene freezes on a tense phone call, the line crackling, as leaders weigh the next move. The world holds its breath, waiting for the first decisive strike. As tensions rise between major global powers, the stakes in international trade reach unprecedented heights. The European Union stands firm, but swirling whispers suggest that Germany may just be prioritizing its national interests over collective unity. Has Berlin chosen a path that could shatter alliances, or is it simply navigating a complex web of diplomacy? The Trump administration, known for its fragmented negotiating style, finds itself grappling with unexpected challenges as Germany and Canada seek a united front. Instead of approaching Europe as a cohesive bloc, the Trump administration often picks apart the fabric of alliances, isolating countries like Germany from France or Italy from Spain. In a surprising twist, Germany and Canada, immensely impacted by tariffs, realize they share a common enemy and a desire to act in concert. This complicates Trump's divide-and-conquer strategy, leaving the administration wondering whether it can sustain a battle on multiple fronts. As trade friction intensifies, domestic companies and consumers brace for the fallout. Could the White House reconsider its stance, or are they prepared to face the consequences of their confrontational approach? The heart of this conflict lies in Germany's automotive industry, where brands like Mercedes, BMW, and Volkswagen ship hundreds of thousands of vehicles annually to the U.S. market. If Trump imposes a whopping 25% tariff on these imports, it would send prices skyrocketing, risking monumental losses and thousands of jobs in Germany. This sector is not just pivotal, it powers employment, exports, and innovation. On the flip side, Canada, also closely linked to the U.S. market, would suffer greatly as its automotive supply chains come under threat. As both nations engage in strategic discussions, there's a palpable tension in the air. The European Union Commission strives for a unified front on trade, but Germany is eager for swift, targeted dialogue with Canada. The urgency is clear, they must deliver a strong message to Washington. This push for synchronized retaliation, like simultaneous tariff hikes, has sparked intrigue, as Germany navigates the complexities of its commitment to the EU while defending its own interests. But can such aggressive postures be maintained without risking unity? As the clock ticks, a precarious balance of power hangs in the balance. Will Germany's decisive bargaining tactics invigorate a united response from allies, or will it lead to further fragmentation within Europe? The current trade climate highlights the intricate dance of diplomacy, where one misstep could unleash chaos and strain partnerships. The question remains, are we on the brink of a full-blown trade war, or can rationality prevail before the damage becomes irreparable? In an unexpected twist, tensions between the United States and its European allies have reached a breaking point. The backdrop is an escalating trade war, where even the vast steel and automotive sectors are caught in the crossfire. Picture the roar of factory machines, the metallic scent of steel, and the palpable anxiety in boardrooms as decisions that could shape economies loom large. The current crisis stems from the imposition of hefty tariffs by the U.S. administration. Under the banner of protecting American industries, the move has backfired, striking at the heart of long-standing partnerships with Germany and Canada, both major players in the steel and automotive markets. Imagine the startled reactions from leaders as they grasp the implications of these high tariffs, which could raise car prices by thousands and risk countless jobs. Germany, seeing an impending threat to its beloved automobile industry, think BMW, Mercedes, and Volkswagen, responded with plans for synchronized retaliation. But how can two allies find themselves in a tit-for-tat showdown? The air thickens with uncertainty as they contemplate the consequences of escalating retaliation against a power like the United States, while Brussels questions Berlin's motivations and commitment to collective European action. As discussions grow heated, we hear whispers within the German Ministry of Economy, emphasizing the dire need to protect their economy. With over 70,000 jobs on the line, the tension is almost electric. The urgency is so tangible. It feels as though the very walls of their offices might vibrate from the weight of their decisions. However, the White House is not likely to take this show of strength lightly. What might be crossing President Trump's mind as he considers the ramifications? In a delicate dance of alliances, the stakes have never been higher. Will he retaliate with further investigations or even impose additional tariffs under the guise of national security? The suspense is gripping as all eyes turn to the potential fallout. Yet, amidst the turmoil, a glimmer of hope remains. Economists suggest that a middle ground is plausible. If the United States were to ease the burden of these tariffs, might the European Union and Canada hold off on their countermeasures? This precarious balancing act leaves us wondering, can diplomacy prevail in this brutal economic tug-of-war, or will the specter of a full-blown trade war emerge? With the future of international relations on the line, the world waits breathlessly for the next chapter to unfold. The fabric of global trade is fraying, and the tensions between allies are intensifying. Imagine a world where trade deals can be as unpredictable as the weather, storms brewing where sunny skies once prevailed. As Germany and Canada brace for a potential trade war sparked by increasing tariffs, the stakes have never been higher. With the United States imposing tariffs that threaten the very backbone of the automotive industry in these nations, emotions run deep. Will trade policies clashing like thunder bring a storm no one can weather? The story unfolds with an escalating dispute at Volkswagen, one of Germany's largest employers. Workers have embarked on rolling strikes, igniting a fire in the heart of Europe's political theater. Just as world leaders, including the President of the European Council, engage in dialogue over free trade agreements, a darker cloud looms overhead. The collaboration that once characterized relations is now strained under the weight of tariffs. The quiet agreement between allies is crumbling under a relentless onslaught of economic protectionism. As tensions magnify, Canada finds itself nestled in a precarious position. Once a steadfast supplier of steel and aluminum to the U.S., it now faces uncertainty due to Trump's tariff bombshells. Justin Trudeau characterizes the situation as unfair, vowing retaliation. The looming question remains, can Germany and Canada unite forces swiftly enough to counter the attack, or will they fracture under pressure? Amidst the turmoil, Germany's decision to consider national initiatives raises eyebrows within the European Union. Critics wonder if Berlin is straining against collective unity, prioritizing its own economic welfare. But with hundreds of thousands of jobs hanging in the balance, can Germany afford to wait for Brussels to act? The urgency crackles in the air like static electricity, a palpable tension that could explode at any moment. Then comes the stark realization, what if the US must confront not only Germany but a united front with Canada? How would it handle retaliatory measures from both sides? Dealing with economic pressure from so many fronts could overwhelm even the strongest allies. With the potential for a full-blown conflict rising, the pendulum of fate swings wildly between confrontation and compromise. Negotiations might seem like a lifeline, yet they drape themselves in uncertainty. As both nations contemplate joining forces against U.S. tariffs, they maneuver through a delicate dance of diplomacy, weighing the risks of retaliation. They tread carefully, understanding that the outcome of this trade battle could reverberate across their economies. The air thickens with tension, the future hangs precariously in the balance. Could this trade war be nothing more than a sparring match before a hopeful compromise? Or are we on the brink of unparalleled economic chaos? As the engines of industry roar and the stakes climb ever higher, the world watches, waiting for news that may alter the course of history itself. The question looms larger, in this potential showdown, which side will emerge victorious? In the face of mounting trade tensions, the bond between Europe and North America is being pushed to its limits. Germany and Canada are exploring joint action against tariffs imposed by the United States, setting the stage for an unpredictable turn of events. Will this be a simple diplomatic maneuver or the precursor to a full-blown trade war? The threat of a fierce confrontation looms large, and the stakes are as high as they've ever been. With the possibility of tariffs creating economic chaos, the plan could redefine global trade alliances. The U.S. has utilized a divide-and-conquer strategy, isolating its allies while applying pressure. But will that method hold against united fronts like Germany and Canada? Can the American administration keep its allies at bay while pushing for its interests? In this intricate game, the realization dawns, there are no definitive wins, only a precarious balance hangs in the balance of negotiations. As both nations remain committed to supporting their industries while maintaining a transatlantic alliance, the prospect of a trade war raises the question, how much can the world economy withstand in this heated battle? Heavy losses and significant job cuts are on the line if drastic measures continue unchecked. Is diplomacy about to give way to economic despair? The tension is palpable. Everyone can feel it, the anxious glances, the whispered conversations about potential fallout. The question feels like an uninvited guest at the negotiating table. Will the U.S. find a way to appease its aggrieved partners, or will it charge forward, undeterred? Into the cauldron of conflict? With the clock ticking toward the 2025 elections, the future of international trade hangs in precarious balance. Both Germany and Canada are asserting their rights to protect their economies. Underneath it all, a new political landscape is brewing, one defined by candid disagreement, yet mutual respect. Will this trend signal a new era in trade relations, or merely heighten uncertainty in an already volatile marketplace? As the nations scramble to find a resolution, a shocking twist awaits on the diplomatic horizon. What lies ahead for alliances once considered steadfast? Will we witness unity or division, collaboration or betrayal? This moment could redefine global alliances as we know them, and all eyes are watching. The choices made in the coming days could reshape the fabric of international trade. In the world of economics, can any side truly come out a winner? As we wait with bated breath, the echoes of history remind us, trade wars do not just end with treaties, they leave scars that take generations to heal.